finally happened. The FDA approved the Pfizer vaccine. Praise the Lord. You'd think this was a bad day for Team Medical Freedom, but I personally couldn't be happier. Because ever since I was a young girl, it's been my dream to expose the shady deeds of the FDA and the CDC. Yeah, so I was a weird kid, so what? And this move just added the FDA to the long list of government agencies that will have zero credibility by the time this spiritual war expires. And it couldn't come at a better time. Just as the news is circulating that the vaccines have been an epic failure, just as we're seeing identical viral loads in the vaccinated and the unvaccinated, just as we're rolling out a third useless dose of the vaccine to the masses. So let's break down the corruption in the FDA real quick. Firstly, did you know that the FDA used to be an entirely taxpayer-funded entity, but now 75% of their budget for drug regulation comes directly from pharmaceutical companies? That's right, the FDA is funded by the manufacturers it regulates. They do not work for you. They work for pharma. Pre-COVID, this would be a conflict of interest, but in 2021's idiocracy, this is just called the scientific method. Secondly, I wouldn't be so fast to assume that just because the vaccine is FDA approved, that it's safe. To demonstrate what I mean by this, I'd like to tell you a story covered by the Los Angeles Times about a little drug called Rizulin. As I tell you this story, I invite you to replace the word Rizulin with COVID-19 vaccine because I'm sure you'll find the parallels uncanny. The rise and fall of the killer drug Rizulin. The suffering persisted for more than 2 years. Initially, there were 4 known victims, then 21, then 33, finally 63 confirmed fatalities. All the while, federal authorities watched, waited, and hoped the deaths would stop. It was not until a disparate collection of physicians inside the U.S. Food and Drug Administration waged a remarkable revolt that the agency was forced to reverse course. These physicians were dubbed the termites. Yeah, you heard that correctly. The people within the FDA who prioritized the health and safety of U.S. citizens over the profits of pharma were called termites. How the termites prevailed in toppling Rizulin, a blockbuster diabetes drug that generated $2.1 billion in sales, illuminates one of the most important reversals in FDA history. A reconstruction of Rizulin's rise and fall shows that senior government officials repeatedly played down the drug's propensity to cause liver failure and death. Before it was withdrawn on March 21st, the FDA assured doctors and patients that Rizulin's potential benefits in lowering blood sugar levels outweighed its grave risks. Sound familiar? The assignment of vetting Rizulin's safety and effectiveness initially fell to Dr. John L. Guiriguian, a veteran FDA medical officer. Guiriguian emphasized that Rizulin offered very little significant therapeutic advantage. By the fall of 1996, Guiriguian concluded that Rizulin was unfit for approval and warned of its potential harm to both the liver and the heart. So did the FDA take Guiriguian's analysis into account and stop all production of Rizulin? Of course not. Instead, they threatened to fire him. Guiriguian came under fire from the manufacturers of Rizulin, Warner and Lambert, who contacted the FDA to complain about Guiriguian's use of intemperate language. Effective November 4th, 1996, Lumpkin ordered Guiriguian removed from the evaluation of Rizulin and any further dealings with Warner Lambert. These actions sent an early and enduring message within the FDA. Challenging Rizulin was not without risk to one's career. So are the doctors and scientists who are speaking out against the COVID-19 vaccine really spreading misinformation? Or are they being silenced by their friends at Big Pharma? An estimated 430 or more Rizulin patients had suffered liver failure. Patients incurred 1,200 times more risk of liver failure by taking Rizulin. 1 of every 1,800 Rizulin patients could be expected to suffer liver failure, a far cry from the 1 in 100,000 risk espoused by the Warner-Lambert spokesman. Because adverse events from prescription drugs are reported voluntarily, typically by doctors and hospitals, Rizulin's estimated toll is perhaps 10 times higher, experts say. Sounds an awful lot like the VAERS reporting system, which is estimated to cover a mere 1% of all vaccine injuries. The FDA is obligated under federal law to ensure that new and existing prescription drugs are safe and effective for their intended use. But the FDA was hardly renouncing Rizulin. In addition to keeping the drug on the market, the agency approved Warner Lambert's request for a new recommended use of Rizulin in combination with 2 other popular blood sugar lowering pills. So not only did the FDA refuse to take the drug off the market after it was found to cause liver failure, They approved it for another use. For those of you who keep saying that we're moving the goalposts because our argument was once that it was not FDA approved and now that it is, we no longer have an excuse not to take it. We were never arguing that the FDA was the be-all end-all of food and drug regulators. We were pointing out the fact that not even the blatantly corrupt FDA was willing to approve your lethal injection. Now that they've done just that after sweeping thousands upon thousands of deaths and injuries under the rug, they've only solidified our suspicion that the evil within them might be even worse than we originally thought. So why are we seeing this approval now? Because this will pave the way for vaccine mandates in colleges, hospitals, corporations, and local governments. Meaning the people who are celebrating this news are looking forward to the day that you're banished from society. They're anticipating the day that you're fired, turned away from essential services, dehumanized, and eventually starved out.